Hello, 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 and welcome to the Pretty Smart Business Podcast. I am your host, Sheena White, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Danielle Harrington. And Danielle is the CEO of Harrington Learning Consultants, an Atlanta and New York based firm she founded in 2006. With 25 plus years in leadership and over 3 decades in the U.S. Army Reserves, she brings a powerful mix of corporate and military experience to talent development and organizational strategy. Her clients include Deloitte, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and the city of New York. Danielle is known for building inclusive, high-performing cultures that scale. Outside of work, she serves on nonprofit boards, gives back to her community, and enjoys traveling, triathlons, and time with her grandchildren. Welcome, Danielle Harrington.
Thank you. Thank
Okay, so
you.
first I have to say, for real, triathlons?
Yes, friends and pressure got me in it. I'm slow. As long as I finish, I'm happy. So
Okay,
that's
triathlon, you have
all.
to swim, right?
Yep, swim, bike, run.
Yeah, see that's where you got me. I would not be in it. I don't swim. I don't enjoy the water. Well, I do enjoy the water. I don't I had a traumatic experience as a very small child, so I like do not do my face in the water, so I don't swim. So
Understood.
could maybe do a
Understood.
biathlon. But okay, that's awesome. So congrats to you,
Thank you.
triathlons.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so share a little bit about your journey and what led you to start Harrington Learning Consultants.
Well, so I've played in two worlds for many years with the military and also working on the corporate side. So I've done active duty, reserves, National Guard in the military, where you learn a lot of people skills.
Mhm.
And on the civilian side, I started doing a lot of corporate training, and that led into leadership development. And I realized the importance of people. People are your best investment, your biggest asset. And one of the things for me, being a lifelong learner, I loved watching people develop and grow, and saw that there was true inconsistency in how organizations did that. So that became just very interesting for me. That led me into going from working in corporate to doing projects and realizing that this was a viable business because you can do it across all industries and every company needs something. So that kind of got me into this business. And also talking to friends who were senior folks at organizations or ran their own companies, when I talked to them about HR, leadership development, professional development, there was always, hey, we need that. Can
Mhm.
you help me? And that's how my business has, been able to sustain and grow.
That's awesome. So, how did your military background shape your approach to leadership and strategy?
The fun thing that I love about the military, it at whatever level you are, there is expectation that you're constantly growing, you're constantly learning. And it started. I started as a private in the Army. Now I'm a lieutenant colonel, so I've done many years, many different jobs. And one of the things that is woven throughout the military, regardless of the branch, is leadership development. Whether it's taking actual leadership courses, leadership positions, and mentoring or coaching. So there, it is really the foundation of what that organization, what each of those organizations stand for, and it's just very important. So for me, knowing that there were different types of leadership styles, also learning that there are different types of people that you lead in different types of situations, and having been put in those, sometimes you're thrown into things. A lot of times in corporate America, you're groomed for leadership. But
Mhm.
in the military, you are a lot of times given a position that you have to grow into. And that was one of the interesting things. And you realize that so many more people on the military side are given the opportunity to learn things, to be in different types of situations, to grow and thrive, that you aren't necessarily given on the corporate side. So that was for me a really great opportunity that I was given that I would have never been given in a traditional corporate setting, to be able to lead in areas that I did, be responsible for budgets, people, things like that. And that's
Mhm.
what allowed me to look at things differently and also realize that titles don't matter. It's skill sets.
Mhm.
And you could have someone that is straight out of high school, but they could be very technically proficient. That will be a game changer for, an organization that has traditional people that have, grad degrees and stuff like that. So I really look at the people and the talents.
Yeah. It's like you were saying that the title doesn't matter, and I would say, have you ever read Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell?
Yes, yes, I have.
So in that he talks about that the first one, which is basically the title, like that's the only one that can be given. Everything
Mhm.
else has to be earned. And so just when you said that, it made me think of that. 'Cause I'm like, oh yeah, he very much is like, look, that matters to a point, but everything else, like that's the base level of leadership, right?
Right.
All the other things, they have to be earned, not they're not just given to you. Um, so I mean, why do you think that corporate and the military are so different in that way? Like,
I think that it's just the way that you're structured, in the sense of the military has a life cycle. They understand that they're trying to keep you as long as you want to stay, or as long as they want you to stay, and that in doing that, development of your skills, whether they're technical or leadership skills, is very important for the success of the organization. So there's much more longevity in the investment of people. Where in corporate, it is very much so of, you're here for this job, you need to be very, very good at what you do, and if someone sees something in you, you may be given the opportunity to grow and do more. But the corporate structure isn't set up for that growth and development and longevity. Even though a lot of organizations want you to stay with them, a lot of times they want you to stay to be really good at what they've hired you to do. Not many
yeah.
organizations are looking to develop you and to give you opportunities to, be uncomfortable, move into new positions, things like that. So that's kind of where it's a little bit different.
I mean, I think that honestly, I think that's kind of short-sighted in a way because
Very.
your number one cost in pretty much every business is your people. And and the cost of a mishire is very, very high. And also the cost of hiring anybody, or like if like hiring expenses are astronomical, especially if you need to hire a recruiter or something like that. So it's much cheaper to develop from within than to hire from outside.
I totally agree. And honestly, that is the conversation that I end up having with a lot of my clients or potential clients. And even with folks that I mentor that are transitioning into consulting on the HR leadership side, it's one of those things where you have to talk to the business owners or the department leads or SVPs, EVPs about the numbers,
Yeah.
because they don't think about all of the costs that are incurred with, as you just mentioned, with recruiting. So
Hmm.
it's not just what you spend on a recruiting company, or even things like, how much of the time is it taking to go through the process in the organization? That means that you're bringing people out of the business to have to go through the vetting process of these potential candidates. You also have the issue of, even when you hire someone, they're not stepping into that job day one, generating revenue, or being able to do the job that you need them to do. There's still some upskilling, whether it's just on how you all do business, that goes into this. And then one of the things that we find also is, what is your onboarding process? There is information out there that how the experience of people coming into a new organization dictates how long they stay. So
I
if
believe
you
that.
don't have a good onboarding process, most people don't stay 6 months. So the money that you've
Hmm.
put into this, it's resetting it. So when we start talking dollars and cents, when we look at their turnover rates, and also for the types of jobs that people are doing, and a lot of times there's a lot of turnover in the entry level positions, And you may not think it's a lot when you're paying someone 18, $20 an hour, but that constant turnover is costing you a lot of money and a lot of potential, revenue um, toward your organization.
Yeah. And also, you think about the company culture, right? So every time you bring in somebody new, you kind of you've kind of incubated or created this company culture, and especially if it's one that you like and you've purposely incubated and purposely created, you add in a new person, and the higher they are on the totem pole, the more they will end up affecting that. And so if you can bring them up from inside, they already have that in them. They already know the company culture, they're living it, versus bringing someone in from the outside who's going to then, dilute potentially that. And you have to kind of get them in the mode, which is a whole nother set of training that costs money that people don't even think about.
Yeah. What I've realized, and there is some truth to this, where a lot of times when companies go outside, they
Mhm.
are looking for different perspectives of someone who hasn't been within that organization that may bring other skills or other experiences from competitors, within that industry. So they are looking for new ideas or proven leadership in that same type of structure to come into their organization. So there is definitely justification for going outside of the organization because there may be a specific skill set that they need right now, or they're looking to take the company in a different direction. But there is always opportunities. It may not be at the senior level. There's still opportunities at the lower level or mid tier to develop those employees to move into those senior levels, because there have been instances in organizations where someone started in an entry level position and ended up being the CEO of an organization.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's few and far between now with companies. It is very interesting to see the current employment environment where, especially for younger people coming into the workforce, where they're looking at sometimes 12 months, you're lucky to get 24, 36 months out of them before they're job hopping. And sadly, a lot of them are not job hopping because they're not getting the experience they need. It's about money.
Mhm.
And that is one of the things that people don't realize, especially at entry level, where you're like, $20 an hour. But once you're putting all of the costs of what it costs for recruitment, HR, the train up, everything like that, if you paid someone $22 an hour and they felt that they were getting a living wage and a part of an organization, even though you're spending a little bit more money on that, the money that you're saving on that turnover is justifiable.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't look at. So that's what I look at with clients is we're looking at the numbers also. We're just not looking at the people because a lot of people just look at it going back to as a title. They're just saying, oh, this customer service rep or, this clerk, it's replaceable. And it's like, no, a lot of times that's your client facing. That's where you learn a lot about what's going on in your company. So
Mhm.
those roles really matter, and you need to invest in those people because those are the people that are going to have your clients return. It's,
Yeah.
a lot of times, and people will say this, it's not about the product, it's about the experience.
Mhm. 100%. And especially these days, I think, because
Yeah.
there's a 10 places you can get any product, right?
Right.
And I think those frontline workers really matter a lot, especially, in thinking about company culture. When you were talking, maybe think about Frontier Airlines and how their workers are kind of known for being jerks.
Yeah.
And it turns out that they were like incentivizing their workers for having people pay for bags and stuff like that. Like, how they make you shove all your stuff
Yep.
into the thing.
Mhm.
And they were still making people pay even if it fit, because they were like, they incentivized that. And so it's like whatever you incentivize, that's what you're going to get. And so they were incentivizing people being kind of rude to their clients.
Right. And for them, sadly, they are in a market where there are people that their what they have to spend is very limited. So it's kind of like you have to tolerate this, and they know that there is that group that they don't have the other options to do the Delta or the American or the United, where this is within my budget. And unfortunately, I have to do that. And it's kind of like being a predator,
Yeah.
with other areas like predatory lending and things like that is what that is. And it's sad to see that and even with all of the negative information out there, I was flying earlier this week and Frontier Airlines is still doing daily flights.
They most certainly are. And I mean, and I've flown them before. I can't say I haven't. And they were as rude as promised.
Mm. Yeah.
So what does sustainable leadership look like in today's fast changing workplace?
I thought about that, and one of the things, sustainable leadership has to change. And we are in an environment where we have now 4 generations in the workforce. People's priorities of what's important to them has changed. And so when you're leading, you have to think about those things. As the leader or the head of an organization, you're looking at the bottom line. But to impact that bottom line, you have to think about the people that are helping you do that, and thinking about some of their priorities. Because I initially came out of financial services, so working, with banks and things like that before coming into the private sector, where I've done work across all industries. But what was very interesting is, and the military was kind of like this before. A friend of mine had laughed about it. Young soldiers coming in, and they really didn't have a lot many years ago of services for families. And the old joke was, if we wanted you to have one, we issued it to you. And so kind of like in a lot of jobs, they're like, we're paying you. And I've heard Jamie Dial say this, and I think he's the head of Citibank or JP Morgan, I'm sorry, one of the large banks. So, and with the return to work, where he is expecting for what he pays his people to be in the office. And this whole idea of, people have moved, people have lives, have other things going on, that doesn't matter. And a lot of people made decisions on, I love my job, I'm paid well, I don't know if there are other options out there, but I'm willing to take the risk because this is not working for me. It may work for you, but it doesn't work for me. And there's a lot of contradictions in leadership now. Starbucks is another example. When we look at leadership, where they had returned to work for their office workers, and they have a new CEO. Their headquarters is in
Seattle, but
Washington
their
State, Seattle.
CEO was in San Diego. Oh,
Yes,
that's
and
my
they gave
favorite.
him,
That's my
they
favorite.
set up an office for him in San Diego. They have a jet flying him back and forth. But again, the head of an organization, you're telling your people, you've got to be back in the office, but then there are exceptions to rules for the head of an organization. So when we look at leadership, there has to be some consistency. There also has to be some empathy, understanding that there are certain jobs that don't have the option of being work from home. Folks that work in our retail positions, food services, even our police officers and
Starbucks
hospitals.
locations themselves, right? Nobody who
Yes.
works in a Starbucks location can do remote. But I actually just read an article this week that he is buying a house in Seattle, and he is moving because of the backlash. Because
But he will
everyone under
still
the
be
sun
gone
was
a
like,
lot of
"Are
the
you kidding
time.
me?"
So, there is no expectation that CEO will be in the office because of his job. He's going to be traveling a lot. But to even have to get to that point to force your hand to buy a home, like that questions the value system of what you expect. Because that is one of the things with consistent leadership. It's not it is, you cannot do as I say, not as I do. And that really means a lot to people. And again, we are different generations, or just people's priorities have changed, where they will do more, for less if they're treated well. That's why a lot of people stay at companies. It's not because they're paid exorbitant amount of money. They like what they do. It's amazing where I talk to a lot of people where that have children, school
Mhm.
age children. School's going to start here in Atlanta in 2 weeks. So especially for the little ones, the germs, and there's been an uptick in the COVID. So kids starting school, bugs being in and out, having that flexibility to
Mhm.
say, I'm going to have to be out a day or two with my kids. I'm fine, but I'm going to need to do this. And to have an organization that supports and understands that. We're now seeing a lot when it comes going back to leadership and how you deal with your people of the sandwich generation, where you have parents who now need care or some type of support, and you have your children. So you have people now that are taking care of two different generations and still working full time, folks that are in their 40s and 50s, and they need that flexibility because they're dealing with things that they don't control. So having an organization that knows that sometimes I can't work every day in the office, or I may have to leave early, I'm still going to do what I need to get done, but to know that I'm doing my job and I want to be here. And in doing that, knowing that just because my schedule isn't the same as everyone else's, doesn't mean that I don't want opportunities for leadership, because that's another thing with the current environment of people wanting to work from home. A lot of companies are saying if you choose to do 100% remote, you are now going to take yourself out of the running for potential advancement. So they're using it as a punishment
Mhm.
to organizations. So again, as far as leadership, how is that motivating for your employees to want to do more or to even do their best
Yeah.
if this is how they feel that they're going to be treated just because of their location?
Yeah. When I read another article that said that one of the main reasons people stay in an organization is because they feel like they have a best friend at work. So making sure that we're talking about team building and things like that, because the more we can have our teams feel like a team, the more that they're actually going to want to stay on that team.
Absolutely, because if you think about the average worker, from the time of actually being at work, the commuting to and from work, the after hours things that they may have to do, you spend more time dealing with the people at work than you do with your own families.
Mhm.
That is the reality of a lot of people's lives. So you do want a place, an environment where you are comfortable and happy to be there. It's also feeling that what you do matters. And that's a really big thing that I hear when I'm dealing with clients is their employees are like, I don't understand how I fit into this organization, and it doesn't seem like what I do matters. And that's what people want to feel with whatever type of occupation that they have. And leaders have to be cognizant of that and spend time developing, and or even if nothing else, just acknowledging the contributions that everyone does at all levels, because people need that.
Yeah. So if somebody's listening and they're like, "Okay, how do I become a better leader?" Like, where do they start?
Okay, good question. Number one, it is looking at, for you, what were the skills that you needed to be a better employee, or the things that you were looking for from a leader? And that's, because two things that we remember is, bottom line, it's how people make you feel, but it's the positive and the negatives of
Mhm.
how people made you feel. So it is looking at those things of when you were looking for leadership, what were the things that you gravitated toward that made you feel seen, that made you feel like you could do anything? Even in times where you might have not hit the mark and something bad went wrong, how was that handled? So it's looking at how treating people, and a lot of that honestly goes back to emotional intelligence. Being a leader, you've got to do some internal reflection, because one of the things that I've learned is just because you're technically proficient at your job doesn't make you a good leader. A
It's very
good
true.
leader understands that there are different ways of doing things, different types of personalities, different types of communication styles, and you have to flex toward those to get people to buy in. Because as a leader, you are influencing people to follow you. And the last thing that you want to do is intimidate or threaten to get them to do what you need to do. You want them to be to have that trust, with you to be able to do the things that need to get done. So it's your ability to influence, to motivate, and that's what a lot of it is. And I would say it's kind of getting outside of yourself. And I have to say, I've spent a lot of time around emotional intelligence because what's also interesting being in the military, there are very structured ways of doing things that I'm used to. And I realize working with clients, that doesn't necessarily work for each type of group.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is, again, as a leader saying, okay, I may be in this environment to just give direction and people are not going to question it and they're going to move forward. And then I have another group that I'm going to give direction, but they're going to want to understand the why. They're going to want to have a discussion in it. And it's the environment that we're in, and understand that they need that to be able to move forward in that environment. So those are the things that I would say to a new leader. It is learning that people, what motivates them are different from you at times. Also, how people communicate is different, and you have to to give some to get.
I love it. So, this has been a really exciting conversation. How can people learn more about you and connect with you?
Okay. Well, two places. That is harringtonlearning.com, my website, which gives you some information on who we are, what we do, the types of clients we deal with. I also have a link that if you just want to get more information about us and check in, you can do that. Also on LinkedIn, I love posting stuff around articles. You mentioned a couple of articles and stuff that you read. So I love just kind of putting information out there. I like to be a resource for information. HR is something where you constantly have to be learning and doing things because this environment changes, especially with the introduction in technology. I also have on Instagram, there's Harrington Learning on Instagram there. So that's multiple places, but definitely if you want to also reach out to me at info@harringtonlearning.com, send me an email. We do a lot of work, and I tell folks that we kind of operationalize leadership. So it's more than just looking at leadership skills and giving them to people, as I mentioned, to be a better communicator, to have more empathy. It's also, how do you now put this into your weekly meetings or your one-on-ones, or if there's change coming in the organization, how do we do that? How do we incorporate people to make sure that everybody understands, number one, what we're doing, and then has a part in making that change? So that's really about the operationalizing of leadership is what I do, and do it across many industries. As you mentioned, I work in government, nonprofit, private companies. So for us, people, your number one investment, and our tagline is discover, develop, and impact. So discover the talent you have within your teams, develop it so that it can make a great impact.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Pretty Smart Business Podcast. And I can't wait to connect more with you in the future.
Thank you for having me. You have a great day.